Hi everyone, Magnus here, and today's video I'm going to be covering queen versus pawn endgames in these kind of situations, discussing which ones are draws for black or wins for white. And I'm going to be starting off with some examples of how a black king and a lone pawn can in fact overpower the force of the queen alone. However, I'll also be covering some later examples of how, with the help of the white king, white can still manage to beat black in what these often theoretically drawn endgames are. So, starting off, I'm going to give this example, and the question is black drawing? Is white winning? What's going on here? And then we're going to try and come up with some moves for white and how black can respond. So, starting off, white kind of has to give a check either here or here, or maybe there, as otherwise black is going to make a queen. Of course, the black pawns are moving this way. So let's say that white gives a check like this. Black actually has a crucial trick when it's these pawns here and here, known as the bishop pawns. Basically, pawns on the C file or the F file are in fact a draw for black when the white king is too far away. And the reason for this is actually because black can step into the corner. And I'll explain like this. Say white were to give a check and the king were to move. The reason it's a draw is actually not because, say after this check, the drawing move is actually not king to c1, and this is quite important. Because if you play king c1 and you only think that this is how you're going to make your draw by moving back and forth like this, then it would actually be like any other pawn where the king manages to get close, just like this, and white would win with a quick checkmate. But the reason that it's actually a draw is because after, say, this check and queen to b3, black has this great move, king to a1 here, and the point is that you cannot take this black pawn because that is stalemate, but at the same time, black is threatening to make a queen, and there is no way to both check the king. So say you check the king will have to always end up moving right back to the pawn, threatening the promotion square where you have to deliver a check, and once again the king moves away, and promotion is threatened, and you have nothing better than to take the pawn and make a draw. So, moving on to the second example of a draw, where the black king and the pawn can overpower the queen by themselves. This is the example of the rook pawns, or the a pawn and the h pawn. And the idea here is that white has to give a check once again, otherwise black is going to promote, and if white gives a check, the black king will move into the stalemate position like this, and white has to move off this diagonal, otherwise you get stalemated, and then black can simply move up just like this, and if whites deliver a check that is not on this cutting file here, and you can't go into a1, which would be stalemate, then the next best thing is to go to b1 and threaten the promotion, and the black queen has nothing better than to deliver perpetual check like this. Once again, every time you go to this b file cutting, you go to a1, as long as it's stalemate, you're good to go. So once again, black can hold the position like this. Okay, so now here is an example of a situation where it is in fact a win for the white pieces, even though the king is miles away. In this situation, it's white to move. White has to start delivering checks, and if black starts to move away, white will simply encroach with the queen until we get a situation like this, where the black king is forced to guard the pawn like so. And as you'll notice, the difference with the center pawn instead of having the bishop pawn is that if the king moves to the side like this, white will simply take the pawn, and this is no good for black because black has a square on a1 to move, and this is not stalemate. So black has to move to d1, on which white can simply move in the king, just like this, and as you can see, this queen is exploiting the pin. So let's say that black is to move, we could get something like this, running the king all the way around back to this here, from which we can make progress yet again. As you can see, this queen is nicely slicing the king. We can deliver this check. Let's say that the king has to move back. If the king goes here, white queen will go here, here, here. here, and we will get the same situation like this. And eventually the white king will make its way over, and black has nothing better to do than get checkmated. So this would be a win for white. These central pawns here are wins for white, and these pawns on the A file, the C file, the F file, and the H file are draws for black because of stalemate tricks in each of the corners. Now, one more that is a win for white is actually this B pawn and the G pawn. So we have wins for white on these files and draws for black on these files here that I'm drawing the arrows the other way. And the reason for that is that the king just doesn't have any good squares. The white queen can start coming in. Then eventually the king will make its way, and it's very, very easy, this one actually, because black has nothing better to do than to do something like this. They will get chased around. If you end up going here, then you are not threatening to promote, so white can start to bring the king in, and white continues to bring the king in, just like this. And you might be able to get a little bit fancy with this move, but there is no need. We simply give a check, and let's say you move out of the way. You actually can get fancy in this position, because after here, queen, there is queen h1, which will collect the queen. And if you promote to a knight, if you promote to a knight, then that is just one check. You'd move out of the way and deliver checkmate on the next move. But of course, you don't have to do that. You can, of course, stick to this simple technique where you force the king like this, and then bring your king. And this is probably the easiest technique, where you just deliver the same old checkmate. And the B pawn acts exactly the same way as the D or the E pawn or the G pawn. But now there are some examples where in fact white does win, even though it is the bishop's pawn on the C file or the F file, as we just discussed. And the way that you can win this position is actually with a check, and the king moves. The king is able to step in and pressure the pawn, and black has no other move than to move the king, from which you can get checkmated by the white queen. So this goes to show that if the white king is close to the pawns, you can often end up with a win for white. So, one more example where the rook pawn can be a win for white is if the king is close enough. I think it's probably got to be in this kind of box here. Something like this. Maybe it can also access from this file, although I know that it can definitely draw from this box. And the way that you do it is you deliver this check, just like this, and after the king moves to a1, you actually have this nice move, queen to d3. And the idea behind queen to d3, actually maybe it's only a draw if you can actually access the b4 square, I think, so it might only be on a few squares. But the point is that after king goes to b2, you can actually move your king into the position with this move, king b4, and you allow the promotion of a queen, but you're in time to deliver this check here, from which the king moves, and then after king to b3, the black queen has no checks to the white king, and white is simply threatening this checkmate, this checkmate, and this checkmate, and this checkmate, and this checkmate if the black queen were to move away, and black has no way to stop all of them. Let's just move the queen somewhere, you will get checkmated. So it's a little bit of a shorter video than normal, but I hope you enjoyed seeing these in this Endgame 101 series. And hopefully you learned something new. Maybe you can save some games by sacrificing if you're black and making the draw with these rook pawns and these CNF pawns. And for white, hopefully you learned the simple drawing technique on the simple winning technique for how you can win against B, D, E, and G pawns. Say you're at a pawn race and you would have just promoted your pawn, and then the other person is just about to promote their pawn, and you're only one tempi quicker. You will be able to win all of those positions. So if you enjoyed it, learned something new, please consider liking and subscribing, and that'd be great. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!